This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories. And welcome to my review of the Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, Extended Edition review. So, yeah, let's get into this. As I have said, last week, Two Towers and Fellowship aren't my favorite ones of them. They're still great movies, but Return of the King is my favorite. This one is my second favorite, though. And, yeah, let's get into it. This is an amazing film. There's so much that happens in it, and all of it is not fully book accurate. I will, well, not exactly of this one immediately, but I will have a comparison between the Return of the King book and movie out most likely in January. I do have to compare a book and a film for a class, and I am doing the Return of the King, so I will be doing that, but waiting for that class to be over before I release it. And also I have to recreate a scene, so I'm gonna be doing the Scouring of the Shire, and I'll have that out also in early January, maybe late December, but I'll probably be early January just to be safe. And yeah, I think that this was all pretty interesting. And going back to the Two Towers, I don't say this was such a fun movie. This is the first time that Andy Serkis really got to shine as Gollum. Before I think he had, I don't know if he had any speaking roles in Fellowship. He may have had a few making like noises and stuff, but this is when we get introduced to such a great performance, and Serkis does an amazing job as Gollum. And that started off a long career for him in mainly motion capture suits, although he has got a few out of it, like Claw in Black Panther and the Avengers, and Alfred in the Batman. But more often than not, he's playing a CGI character, like Snoke. I think it was Caesar from Planet of the Apes, and there's more. I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but I know that he plays a lot of CG characters, and Lord of the Rings is the reason for that. But yeah, that's an amazing performance, and as I mentioned, other ones I'm listening to audiobooks of the Lord of the Rings books as I read the physical versions, and those are narrated by Serkis, and that's definitely interesting. But let's go back to this. We have so much interesting stuff in here. Let's go by the character plots. So we'll start off with the shortest, but a fun one. This the one of Merry and Pippin. First with the Uruk-hai, and then with Treebeard. Just like in the book, they have the smallest role in the Two Towers in terms of, time dedicated to it, but they have an important role with overthrowing Saruman and making sure that he was permanently taken out of the picture. Well, not exactly permanently, but he was taken out of the picture for the upcoming War of the Ring which, depending on if you wanted to say it starts with Helm's Deep or if it starts with what's it called, Pelennor. Depends. I'd say it probably starts with Helm's Deep, but that's a different debate for a different time. But still, I think that it was done very well. They they had a great time with what's his name, Treebeard, who I recently learned was played by the Gimli actor, and that was something nice to know. I didn't know he played Treebeard, but it was nice to learn that. But it was still a great performance, and yeah, their storyline, although it is short and it all does have a big role. It's the most minor part of the three stories. Still was done very well. Now going on to the events of what happened with the three hunters, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, and Gandalf, with everything they did with Rohan. I think that's the best part of the film overall, although there is some good stuff with Gollum. And we have a pretty similar version of events, besides the elves showing up at Helm's Deep. That's the only major change. But their remains were mainly the same. I think it was done pretty well still, and I really enjoyed. I had a lot of fun watching Helm's Deep. It's a great scene and was done very well. I definitely had fun watching, and I think that Theoden was done well, and the rest of the characters were too. But to go to one of the inconsistencies, as we look at Frodo and Sam, quickly, I am taking a look at Appendix B of The Return of the King, which has basically a day-by-day play of what was going on in the books, so we can know. And Helm's Deep and everything happens in early March, but taking a look at it when Theoden reaches Isengard, which is put into the next film, we actually learn that Frodo hasn't even been taken by Faramir yet, which happens 2 days later on the 7th, and that's when, Aragorn is about to depart for the path of the dead the next day. And that's the one thing, the reason that, all that extra stuff was added in is simply because there wasn't much for Frodo and Sam to do if they were going to be keeping it in accurate time proportions, since the Two Towers book does end with the events of Shelob's Lair, and that happens pretty far into Return of the King. And that's because, the adventures of Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Gandalf, Merry, and Pippin are all split into the first half of the book, while Frodo and Sam take up the entire second half of the book. That is the main reason that this all happens. They had to, extend things out because they had to keep things generally on track since they weren't going to be telling it in a kind of split up style like they intended when Tolkien wrote it. That's one thing that, makes me understand it. Although all the stuff in Osgiliath wasn't in the book, I do understand why. And I still think it was a good add-on, but there's people wondering why it's different from the book. That's most likely the reason because, well, they weren't going to be going to either Shelob's lair here or having Frodo and Sam disappear for most of the movie, since really the only thing that would have happened was the Paths of the Dead, and then, well, that would have first off made this a lot shorter of a film, but also the only thing that really would have happened is Return of the King would have either had to be extremely long, having to cover the Faramir stuff, and then bringing them to, well, everything that they already did. Of course, they didn't have to do the Osgiliath stuff, so that would save some time. But either Return of the King would have to be longer, or it would have to be 2 parts. And honestly, that doesn't sound terrible, because we can maybe get some like Scouring with the Shire. But I understand why it was done like that. They didn't want to make it even longer than it had to be. But continuing on, I think that, yeah, this was a great movie. I loved the 3 different stories. Saruman, played by Christopher Lee, was also done really well. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. Lord of the Rings is a great franchise. And personally, I've always loved watching the movies. But I wonder, what do you think of this film? Do you like Lord of the Rings? Are one of the people who doesn't like it? I know there are people, like Tolkien's son, Christopher Tolkien, and he did not like it because it did change stuff, although it is understandable. I'm guessing that, well, his son didn't like it because of the changes made. Wanted it to be a fully faithful adaptation, but still it did, I think, its job well. And let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.